Questions.
Good morning, kids. Thank you for watching today. We are getting ready to answer some questions that Jesus asked when he was here on earth, starting today and over the next few weeks. The question that we're going to look at today is one that Jesus asked in the book of Luke, chapter 6. And Jesus said, "Why do you call me Lord, but don't do what I say?" You know, that's a tough question because Jesus was basically saying, you say that you are a follower of Christ, but you don't do what I say. You don't obey my commands. We're going to look at the story of the wise and the foolish builders. But right now, we're going to see some kids and see what they're up to. Simon says. So whenever I say Simon says, you do it. And if I tell you to do something and you don't do Simon says, that, Simon doesn't say it, you're out. So y'all understand all the rules?
Yeah.
Okay, here we go. So Simon says, pat your head. Simon says, rub your belly. Simon says, turn around in a circle. Jump up and down.
What?
Simon says, stop. Okay, Simon says, hop on one foot. Simon says, jump on both feet. Simon says, twirl like a ballerina. Do the splits.
Oh my God, you can't do this.
Y'all are out. I didn't say Simon says. Did you notice something in our game today? The kids had to do more than just hear the words that Simon said. They had to actually do what Simon said. In other words, they had to hear and obey Simon's commands, or they were out of the game. In the same way, our lesson today, we have to do more than just hear and know God's words. We have to hear and obey God's words if we want to show that we're followers of Christ. Main point is,
What ho! Who goes there?
oh my, who are you?
No one questions the Inquisitor.
Oh, the Inquisitor? Who's the Inquisitor?
The Inquisitor is I. I hear you little ones are asking questions. Questions. I love questions. I love them so much that I travel across the land questioning people until their brains turn into jelly. Now prepare yourself for trivial bombardment.
Trivial bombardment? What's...
I asked a question here, sweet Susie.
Well, my name is,
No matter. Question time. Why is the sky blue? Why are green beans green? If I make a face like this, will it get stuck that way?
Yeah.
Why does Swiss cheese have holes? Do owls have an identity crisis? Who? If a pig eats bacon, does it feel guilty? Is this getting annoying yet?
A little bit, yes.
Victory! Oh, questions are so positively annoying. There's nothing good about questions.
Now hold on, Mr. Inquisitor. That's not true at all. Questions can be a ton of good. You just have to ask the right ones, like Jesus did.
Jesus asked questions, but he knew everything.
Of course Jesus knew everything. And it wasn't because he doesn't know something. He used questions to teach lessons. He did some of his best teaching by asking people certain questions. And today's question is,
how many cheese balls can a rabbit stuff into its nose?
Oh, no. What I was going to say is, today's question that Jesus asked is, why do you call me Lord, but don't do what I say?
What kind of silly question is that?
Well, it's not silly. It's actually really important. There are some people that say that they are a Christian, but then they, act and live the way they want to. They only obey some of Jesus' commands, but not all of them. They may pray to him, but they don't love others, or they're forgiving, but they don't respect authority.
So, what's your point?
The point is that if you're going to love God, truly love God, you have to obey all of his commands. And it's not something that just happens. You have to choose to obey God's commands every single day.
Tell me this. What good could possibly come from obeying every single little thing Jesus said?
It's simple. You see, God gave us all of those commands for us to have a healthy life, to be safe, and because He loves us. And if we obey His commands, we will be protected. If we follow them, we'll be able to live the life that God plans for us.
This question intrigues me. I shall tarry off and ponder this for a fortnight.
Fortnight? What does that mean?
I'm going to go backstage and think about it for a little bit. But before I do, I have one final question for you. Prepare your mind. Is the word fish stick the opposite of bird ball?
What?
No one questions the Inquisitor! Ha 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 ha!
Today, I want to share a story that Jesus told in Matthew chapter 7. He told this story right after He asked today's big question. Jesus said, "Why do you call me Lord, but do not do what I command?" Jesus told of two men who planned to build a house. If you've ever seen a house being built, you know that is a very difficult thing to do. It requires a lot of preparation and planning. Jesus said that one of the men was wise and the other was foolish. Let's see if you can tell which one was which. One man was searching for the perfect place to build his house. He found what he believed was the perfect spot. It was a large area with lots of solid ground. He felt that this would be a great spot to build his house. So that is exactly what he did. When he was done, he looked at his home that was built on solid rock and felt that it was good. One day, there was a major storm that brought high winds and tons of rain down upon the house. It was a terrible storm. But do you know what? Even in the midst of the storm, this man's house stood strong on a solid foundation. The other man searched for the perfect spot to build his house. He found a spot that was a beautiful area covered in sand. He built his house on the sand, and he was very happy with how it turned out. It probably felt a lot like a beach house. Do you remember the storm that we talked about? Well, this same storm came upon the house of the man who built on sand. His house didn't stand up so well. After all, he had built his house on soft sand. When the wind and the rains came, they caused his house to begin to shift and to shake. And when the sun came up the next morning, this man's house was nothing more than a pile of rubble. Now, which of these men do you think was the wise man that Jesus talked about? That's right, the wise man was the one who built his house on a solid foundation. He built it on the rock. Jesus said the wise man is like the person who hears my commands and obeys them. The foolish man is like the person who hears my commands but does not obey them. Today in your lesson, you're going to learn that if we obey Jesus' commands, He will help our lives stay strong. If we disobey Jesus, then our lives will crumble as bad as the foolish man's house. So listen very carefully. It could change your life.
Hey kids, Coach here. You're probably wondering, what are you doing in the kitchen, Coach? You might be a little bit scared, but hey, the lunch ladies are on strike right now over creative differences they have on how sloppy the Sloppy Joes are. But don't worry, I'm here to serve lunch and I'm here to teach you this week's Power Verse. Today's Power Verse is this: if you love me, obey my commandments. John 14:15. All right, now this time I'm gonna need all the boys to help me out while we do the Power Verse. I'm gonna count 1, 2, 3. You're gonna stand up and we're gonna say it all together. If you don't, it's a technical foul. Here we go. 1, 2, 3. If you love me, obey my commandments. John 14:15. Great job, boys. You can have a seat. Now it's the ladies' turn. I want all the girls to stand up, and I'm gonna go 1, 2, 3, and you say the power verse as big as you can. All right, ready? 1, 2, 3. If you love me, obey my commandments. John 14:15. Great job, ladies. You can have a seat. Now this power verse reminds Coach of why I have rules in gym. And it's so 1, that you stay safe, and 2, because I care about you. Coach cares. Yeah, and just like I care, God also cares about you, which is why he gives us his commandments for us to obey. So let's say the power verse one more time, but this time we're gonna do it with our physical challenge. Yeah, that's right. Everybody stand up. This time when I say 1, 2, 3, you're going to do the power verse while doing as many jumping jacks as you can. Ready? 1, 2, 3. If you love me, obey my commandments. Done. 14, 15. Boom. Stop. Done. Great job, everybody! Especially you in the back there, kid. You did like 100. I'm proud of you. I'm proud of you. Now I gotta get ready because the lunch rush is about to show up. But don't worry, I'll find my hairnet and I'll see you guys next week.
Jesus asked a lot of very tough questions to people when he was on earth. The purpose of those questions weren't to trick people or confuse them. Instead, the purpose of those questions was to teach them very important things and make them really think about their lives and actions. The question we're learning from today is, why do you call me Lord but don't do what I say? That's a tough question. Jesus is saying, sure, you say that you love me and that you're my follower, but you don't even pay any attention to my commands. You just do whatever you want. Then you claim to love me and follow me. Here is what Jesus was saying. If you truly love God, you will obey his commands. You see this card? This is a card that you would send to someone to let them know that you love them. People buy these cards, write their feelings down, and then give them to someone that they really love. They do this so that the person that receives the card will really know that they love them. The best way to show God that you love him, it's not by sending a card. It's not even by singing him a worship song or telling him I love you. Those things are great, but they're not the best way to tell God you love him. Jesus told us how to tell God we love him in our power verse today. He said, if you love me, obey my commandments. That's it. Obey him. That's the best way to show God that you love him. Too many people want to pick and choose the things in the Bible that they want to obey. They say, yes, I love God, but I'm not going to give 10% tithe to him. That's just too much. Or they say, I love God, but I'm not going to obey his command to honor my mother and father. Sometimes I just want to be rude. Well, they may never really say that out loud, but their actions communicate exactly that. You see, God doesn't want us to just say we love him. We have to show we love him by obeying what he says. And how can we do that? After all, it's not easy to obey. The only way that'll happen is if we choose to obey every single day. We have to make a conscious choice to obey God. You have to decide ahead of time that whatever happens today, I'm going to obey God. If we wait until temptation comes, we may make the wrong decision, and that would break God's heart. So we must start off the day saying, today I'm going to obey God, and I'm going to follow his commandments. Why is it so important to follow God's commands? It's important because if you obey God's commands, you'll make it through life's storms. Remember the two builders in our Bible story? The one who built their foundation on the rock, their house survived the storm when the storm came. The other lost his house in the storm. The builder who built on the solid foundation represents those who hear God's words and obey them. When you obey God's commands, you're able to make it through life's storms. Life is full of storms. There are storms such as sickness and pain, suffering, disappointment, and more. And if you want to make it through these tough times, you have to learn what God's word says and follow his commands. When you trust and obey God, your life is built on the solid foundation of Jesus Christ. He will help you through life's toughest times. It's time for all of us to choose to obey God's commands because God wants what is best for us. He will help us through the storms of life. Wasn't that a fabulous lesson today? I wanted to remind all of our kids that this Wednesday at 5 p.m. is our next Canvas Kids Zoom meeting. And we want each of you to dress up like your favorite Bible character. Know a little bit about your character. We're going to discuss that, and then we have a wonderful devotion afterwards. Bye!